What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another UFC 252. Well, not another one, but UFC 252 bets and predictions with my main guy, Zach Harris. We are on like Fly Like an Eagle podcast. We are going live on that probably in September, first week of September. We
Yeah.
try to do it every week, but sometimes it just doesn't work out because of COVID. It's understandable to some, not to everyone, but it is what it is. We'll be doing our analysis today for this pretty hot fight card. I'm not gonna lie. I see a lot of fights on this fight card that I really like, and we'll get mine and Zach's predictions on it. So Zach, what is up?
What's up, buddy? I'm ready for football season. I think the awkward thing is that we don't have any preseason, and you're not really hearing a whole bunch out of training camp. Obviously, we're being Eagle fans. You just saw the Deshaun Jackson video with him burning Slay, but other than that, you really haven't been hearing much out of any training camp. So it's been a very quiet off season. So I'm really ready for. I think it's like 28 days from now we get football, something around that line. So I'm excited for it. I'm ready for that. But UFC, this is actually an underrated card. It doesn't have a whole bunch of stature outside of the top two fights. But for me, this is a very underrated card. I'm definitely going to buy it on ESPN Plus and watch it tonight. And I'm not a big guy to stay up late because I constantly work. We're going to start off with one that actually got bumped up from the prelims into the main card because this is a fight between two guys that refuse to lose. You got Daniel Pineda and Herbert Burns, and right now Burns is the favorite, but Pineda is a guy that refuses to lose. In my eyes, this is Burns' fight all the way, but I wouldn't be too shocked if Pineda came out here victorious because, like I talked about, he doesn't want to take this all 3 rounds. He wants to win this within 3 rounds. He's going to go for the knockout. So he definitely has a chance. Anytime you get one of those knockout artists, all it takes is one shot to stun him, and then you go after him. But for me, I think Burns is just going to be too much trouble for Daniel, and I see this going Burns' way 100%.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I got Herbert Burns tonight. You have that knockout artist effect in Pineda, but the thing is when you're facing technical artists like Herbert Burns, they try to stay away from the knockout as much as possible. I actually have this going the distance. I think this goes all 3 rounds, and I just feel like Burns actually goes to a decision via snooze fest. I don't think this is going to be a good fight at all. I think it's going to be a very boring fight since he's going to try to stay away from Pineda. So I'd obviously take the over the 2.5 rounds. That would be the bet for that one.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. Like I said, Pineda is one of those guys that he's going to be aggressive. He's going to try. And Burns is a veteran, a savvy guy that's going to be able to move his way around the rink. For those that want an analogy, if you watch the way that, maybe Mayweather fights, kind of like that, where he's going to keep his distance. He's going to pick his spots. And if you want to call it running around the octagon or whatever you want to call it, he's going to really keep his distance and take this to all 3 rounds. The next fight we got is the bantam bout between Dodson and Merab. We're not going to get into his last name.
No, we're not. Yeah, we're not pronouncing that. We'll fuck it up.
Yeah, we're not that
we'll
great.
probably get a hitman on us.
I'll start out with this one once again. For me, you got a guy in Merab that's been an up-and-comer. He started off slow. I believe he won his last 4 fights. He's nothing very entertaining as you look at Dodson, I believe back in like 2016, 2017. I forget when that fight was against Mighty Mouse DJ. He actually gave him quite a bit of a fit. And at one point, he was looked at as the second best fighter in that division. He was coming off a 2-loss streak right now. He gets a big victory in the knockout round. What I'm looking for him is basically with John, you need to use that bag of tricks that he has when it comes to striking ability and basically just use the combo, use his takedown defense. This is the kind of guy that if he gets caught up in the clinch, he's going to go down. But if he can keep it in the middle of the octagon, keep it standing up, this is John Dodson's fight to lose. Merab, if he wants to win this, he's coming off a 4-fight win streak. He needs to get this in the clinch. He needs to get this on the ground, take it to decision because John Dodson is more of a knockout kind of guy. He has won decisions in his time, but mainly his main thing is to stay in the middle of the octagon, win this one on his feet.
Well, I think you just nailed it right off the bat. And I'm not going to pronounce that guy's name because I don't want a hitman sent to my door because I think he's Russian and Russians are crazy fucks. But the thing is you nailed it right on the head. He's going to stand in clinch. He's going to control the distance, and he's not going to let John Dodson get. He's not going to let him get close to him. I think it's going to be another decision. I think this one's actually easier than the first fight to predict because I think since John Dodson is 35 and Milosh, whatever the fuck his name is, 29. I I just feel like since the 29-year-old has more to lose,
Yeah.
he's going to stay away from him. I think it's going to be another snooze fest. Unfortunately, we have 2 snooze fests to open up the card, but the next 3 fights are going to be very entertaining. So we're both on the same side. I think we're on the same side. You got John Dodson, right?
Yeah, I got Dodson.
I can't. All right, so I think we lost Zach for a minute. Oh, you got Dodson? I got the other guy. I got the Russian. But for the third fight, what do we got?
We got Junior Dos Anjos versus Jazino Rosenstruck. I think maybe you're different on this one. I think this is Junior Dos Anjos fight all the way. He's a guy, another knockout artist. He can knock you out. He can also get you into clinch. He can get you into submission. So this guy is able to do it multiple different ways. And, mainly he's a knockout guy going up against another knockout guy. Like you talked about, 2 snooze fests to start off with. If you're looking for heavy hitting, which the UFC has been trending towards over the last couple of years, even before Conor McGregor came in to UFC, this has been something that's been trending. People are trying to stay away from the submission fights and everything of that nature. These are 2 guys that like to knock out. They like to get the fight done, probably right around in the second round, maybe early third round. This is going to be one of those heavy bouts where it's fist for fist, pound for pound. For me, this is going to be more Junior Dos Anjos because he's better at defense. He's better at protecting the body. I think he's just going to have his way with Jazair. I think he's going to take his time. He's going to pick his spots. And he's really going to be able to take advantage of Jazair's lack of defense compared to Junior.
Yep. No, we're on the same side of every single fight. No, you had John Dodson. We're on the same side for this one. I have Junior Dos Santos winning kind of in dominant fashion. If you saw Jazeer's last fight, he looked like a bully in high school getting kicked out by the bouncer. It was like the first 20 seconds of the fight, Francis Ngannou made him look like a bitch. And I think it was 22 seconds in, he just leveled him right into the jaw. And I think Junior Dos Santos, even though he's a little bit up there in age, and the other guy only lost 1 fight, it is just a complete mismatch, and the wrong guy is favored in this fight. Take Junior Dos Santos. I would make it a max bet, but I have 2 max bets in this fight card already, so I'm not going to label it that. Third in a parlay, I would take Junior Dos Santos. I'm on the same side.
Yeah, I agree 100%. The next fight we have is one that I feel like not enough people are talking about. You have Sean O'Malley versus Marlon Vera, and this is a very, very underrated fight. This could end up being the best fight on the card, and that's nothing to take away from 2 legends because obviously this is the 3rd time that they're going at it. 2 legends, and this could possibly be Daniel Cormier's last fight. He keeps talking about it, but I don't believe it until he actually walks away because this is something that's been going on for the last 2 or 3 years with him. But Sean O'Malley, Marlon Vera, we all know Sean O'Malley's a knockout artist. Once again, if you're looking for another punch-heavy card, this is it. Sean O'Malley has yet to lose, not only in the UFC, but in MMA in general. He's 12-0. That doesn't get talked about enough. Marlon Vera, if you watched him in his most recent UFC fights, he's 5 of his last 6 and easily could have went 6 of 6. He handled that last fight very well, and it could have went in his favor, but unfortunately it didn't. For me, I'm going to pick on the side of Vera and how he can win. I still think this is Sean O'Malley's fight to lose, but if Vera wants to win, he needs to pick his spots. He needs to stick with the leg kicks, and he has a great array of body shots. He needs that too. The only issue is with Vera is he's a slow starter, and sometimes he tends to adjust too much to his opponent and fights his opponent's style instead of his own style. So if he could stay away from that, if he can stick with the leg kicks, get with the body kicks, I could see Vera pulling up the upset. Unfortunately, Sean O'Malley's just going to give him too much trouble. He's going to stay away from the body hits. He's going to stay away from the leg kicks, and he's going to be able to knock him out. Unfortunately, that's how I see this going. But Vera does have a chance for the upset.
All right. Well, this is a max bet. This is one of my 2 max bets of the fight. I am going with the underdog, Marlon Vera. I
Oh,
think this is the easiest fight on the card to predict. Sean
hmm.
O'Malley has fought absolutely nobody,
I
nobody
agree.
whatsoever. He's the most colorful person in the UFC. He dyes his hair in the Ecuadorian flag. He dyes his hair in the Joker colors. He thinks he's hot shit. I don't think he's that great of a fighter. I really don't. He's a knockout artist, but he has not fought anybody yet. Marlon Vera was on a 5-fight win streak before Song Yadong, all right? And he should have won that last fight against
Yep.
Song Yadong. You want to know why? Because I bet on it. I thought I lost. I took Song Yadong because I think Song Yadong is actually a really good fighter. The hype train was there. I guess Vegas got their way, and it was a corrupt fight. But yeah, it should have been 6 straight fights for Marlon Vera. Marlon Vera has never gotten knocked out in his career. His whole UFC career, he's never gotten knocked out. He has lost by decision every single time he has lost. He's 15-6-1. Sean O'Malley is 10-0. Sean O'Malley isn't only going to lose this fight, he is going to get dominated, and it is a finish in the second round.
Wow. Like I said, I think Vera could definitely pull up the upset. You brought a good point up of never being knocked out. Also, you got to remember Sean O'Malley doesn't get on the ground. He's kind of like, if you basically want to compare him to Conor McGregor, you can. Obviously not to the talented level that Conor McGregor is. But if you get this guy on the ground, you can get him to submit. He can be knocked out. He just hasn't faced anybody's ability like Vera. The only thing that worries me with Vera is, like I said, sometimes he adjusts too much and he goes more to the style of his fighter instead of working his game plan, which brings us to our final bout, which could be the
Wait, hold
final.
on. Let me
Go ahead.
finish on that last fight, all right? So Sean O'Malley hasn't been tested on the ground yet. He's a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You know what Marlon Vera is? He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So he'll have the edge on the ground. And you know Marlon Vera is going to try to take to the ground. There's no way in hell that he's going to stand with Sean O'Malley knowing that he knocks people out. Marlon Vera, not only, like I said, not only is he going to win this fight, he's going to win it in dominant fashion. It's going to be fucking ugly. I'm telling you right now, if you bet on Sean O'Malley, you're going to lose your money. This fight is the easiest fight of the card.
You heard it from his mouth first. You know, I've been seeing you've been winning a lot of money, so I'm going to trust your judgment on the betting side of it. I just like to break down the fights. You're the moneymaker, all right? The last fight is probably the most, I don't even know how to explain it, the biggest legacies on the line. You got some of the greatest fighters of all time. Would I like to see it be John Jones and Daniel Cormier? Yeah, but we're not going to get into that because we got a great fight right here between Stipe and Daniel Cormier. Cormier, to me, has always been one of my favorite fighters for the simple fact that he's able to win in multiple different ways. If you've seen in the first fight, he got him in the clinch. He used the different tactic that Stipe wasn't really expecting. Stipe bounced back in fight 2 and really had an array of shots. Stipe does a great job of changing up combos, great body shots, great head shots. Daniel Cormier, not as enough is being talked about how his lack of defense often leads him open for body shots and other things. Stipe took advantage of that in fight 2. Cormier could have had him in fight 2. He had him on the ground. He had him over the back, but unfortunately he didn't take advantage of it. If I'm Daniel Cormier, I'm getting this fight on the ground. That's how you're going to win this. This is how you're going to get your championship belt back and go out on top. If you go to the ground game, he needs to get him in the clinch. He needs to get him in the ground game. Stipe, if he wants to win, he needs to use those different kind of combos, the leg kicks, the body shots, and basically take advantage of Daniel Cormier's lack of defense. Get this into the 3rd, 4th, maybe even 5th round. Daniel Cormier, yeah, he has that ability to last all 5 rounds, but I don't think his body's going to hold up all 5 rounds, especially if you get Stipe getting those body shots in. Basically, if this fight stays off the ground, I'm taking Stipe all the way. If the fight goes on the ground, Daniel Cormier, how can you go against a legend like that on the ground?
All right, I got my second max bet tonight. Before I announce it, I'm going to talk about what a great fight this is going to be. The first one wasn't that great. It was a knockout by Daniel Cormier against Stipe Miocic. Then Stipe got the belt back in the second fight. The third fight, you know, you're going to see a lot of Daniel Cormier in this one, and this is my max bet. Daniel Cormier with another max bet. Daniel Cormier is the better fighter overall. I don't even think it's very close. He's more technical. He has the knockout skill. He's been in 3 fights in the heavyweight division, so he's used to that division now. All right. Stipe, the only reason why Stipe won the last fight is because Daniel Cormier didn't condition his gut. All right. And he was hitting him right, what I like to call the jelly belly. All right. He was hitting him there over and over and over again, and he caved in the 4th round. If you watch that fight in the beginning, you could argue that Daniel Cormier won every single round up until that knockout.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
He completely schooled him every single round because Daniel Cormier is a fucking monster. The only person he can't beat is John Jones, which is to some people one of the greatest of all time. So that's the only fighter he can't beat because he just doesn't match up well to him. But Daniel Cormier is going to go out on top. He's going to retire the champion. And don't think for a second that he hasn't conditioned his gut. And if he tries that body shit on him again, he's gonna have a counter, and his gut's not gonna go out because they've been working on it. They've been throwing that medicine ball to his stomach, and Daniel Cormier is going to win this fight. I'm gonna say it's gonna be a really good fight. I say it goes the distance. I think it's gonna be a decision for Daniel Cormier, but I think he just picks Stipe Miocic apart, and I got Daniel Cormier right into the sunset with the belt.
Yeah, I would love to see him ride into the sunset. Obviously, like we talked about, I would rather him be going out against John Jones, but that's not going to happen. But from what I hear, John Jones is in the talk to have another fight very, very soon. And this guy, obviously, he gets way too many chances, but at the same time, he deserves it. There's nobody, I think, right now in this game that's as talented, as athletic as him. He abuses his chances. This is now or never for him because his legacy could be sky high right now. And unfortunately, with all the other outside stuff going on, that's why I feel Daniel Cormier isn't talked about enough. Like, his legacy is right up there with some of the greats of all time. And I honestly can't wait for him to retire because I love what he brings to the side of the octagon as opposed to what he brings in the octagon. He may be a snooze fest inside the octagon when he gets to wrestling, but all his analysis, everything outside of the octagon. If you're really trying to get into UFC, Daniel Cormier is one of those guys that you need to listen to because he puts it in common knowledge. He breaks it down for you, and it's very easy to understand. So I can't wait for him to get started on his career outside of the octagon as well.
The only reason why people didn't like Daniel Cormier is because his battles with John Jones. He went back and talked shit to John Jones, calling him a junkie and alcoholic, and people loved John Jones, and people didn't know the real side to John Jones. That's why they gave Daniel Cormier shit over the years, which was not granted because Daniel Cormier is actually a very nice guy.
Yeah.
And, I actually I like Daniel Cormier. I like John Jones a little bit more as a fighter because when it comes to the fight game, I have to pick fighters over personality. It just is what it is, and John Jones is a fucking monster. But Daniel Cormier is a very good fighter. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame one day, and I just think it's going to be an absolute awesome 5-round fight. By the way, we're going to talk. I'm going to just mention this for a minute. All right. Khabib, he's coming back in October. All right. He's fighting, what's his fucking, Justin Gaethje. They're in talks right now. If Khabib were to beat Justin Gaethje, they're in talks with GSP talking about them fighting in March, and that would be Khabib's last fight.
Yeah, I don't want that to happen. I think that's a cop-out by Khabib. I mean, going 29-0 if he wins this next fight, he obviously, like Mayweather, he gets to pick his fight. Like Conor McGregor, when he brings in the numbers, he gets to pick his fight. In all fairness, yeah, Khabib should be able to pick his fights, but at the same time, like, I told you this time and time again, if you watch that fight against Conor McGregor, and for those of you that are just basic fans that only watch when Conor fight, you should even know that Conor in that octagon, when he walked in, he was the first fighter. He was the first fighter to walk into that octagon. Khabib was second. Conor was not his confident, cocky self in that fight. And I could tell you right before they even rang that bell that he was going to lose that fight, I looked straight over to my wife and I said, this is not Conor's night immediately. I think if you get a more concentrated Conor, and honestly, he's deserved it because he brings in the numbers. I know everybody's not so excited with his last fight, but Khabib also talked about bringing up a possible another fight with Conor. The first time we possibly heard about a rematch. And obviously, he's got to be Dustin Poirier, which is going to be a difficult fight, but I think that fits magically up with his ability. And I think that's a fight that Conor could win and go against Khabib. Is Khabib just talking out of his ass? Most likely. But, GSP, as great as he is, as big as his legacy is, he hasn't really been fighting on a consistent basis over the last 5 years. I think he really needs to give it up unless he's just doing it for the money, and that's kind of what it seems to be. Khabib, if he wants to go out as the best of the best, fans of UFC, fans of Conor McGregor aren't going to let you go down with just losing that or beating Conor that one time when everybody knows Conor was an alcoholic. I'm not going to get into everything on the outside of the octagon, but clearly he was not as concentrated on that fight. He didn't respect the game as much as he should have, like he did earlier in his career. I think we could see a bounce back fight, and that would make for an excellent fight. But let's not put it past Gaethje, who could pull up an upset. Highly unlikely because Gaethje is not good on the ground. Khabib, you've got to remember, Conor's the only single fighter to win one single round against Khabib. That's how dominant Khabib's been. So like I said, if he wants to pick a fight with GSP, that's fine by me. But at the same time, I would love to see a rematch with Conor, a concentrated Conor McGregor.
I unfortunately do not think that Conor McGregor rematch is going to happen just because Khabib knows exactly what you just said, and he doesn't want to give that spark to Conor McGregor. And if Conor McGregor were to win that fight, that would mean they'd have to run it back. And I don't think Khabib wants to stay in forever. So, especially because his dad just died. So, I mean, I don't see that happening. I could see the GSP fight happening, but I am actually intrigued in that GSP fight. The only reason why is because I know how dominant GSP was, and I know GSP still has what it takes. And to me, that would label whoever won that fight the best fighter of all time. So that's why I'd be intrigued in that. And they're both wrestlers. So I think that would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, for me, a lot of the avid fans of UFC and some of the casual fans, they're looking for the strikeout artist, not necessarily the Khabib Nurmagomedov, the GSP. The only reason people like GSP is the shit talking ability that he has. He was one of the original shit talkers outside of obviously when you had, Ken Shamrock and them way back in the day, but he was one of the original shit talkers before the John Joneses, before the Conor McGregors. So that's why people gravitated towards him. Obviously, like we talked about earlier in this podcast, where they've kind of been leaning towards where it's been more strikeouts, less defense, less takedowns. But if you are a guy kind of like you like pitcher schools, you like wrestling matches, you like tactics, this would be an outstanding fight for all the marbles, all the legacy. And I agree with you. This would be one of the best fights of all time.
It would be. And GSP, he's the nicest guy ever. But the way he talked trash was just so funny. Like, I'm not impressed with your performance to Matt Hughes. And I just thought that was so funny because he was like, you suck, but he said it in like a nice way.
Yeah, everybody gravitated towards GSP. GSP was the original Conor and John Jones, and he was outstanding because he always backed it up as well.
Always. And the one fight he should have lost was to Johnny Hendricks, obviously, and he should have lost that fight. But Johnny was roided up, and there's no doubt about that. So I'm glad he didn't lose. But with that said, those were our predictions and bet tips for tonight's UFC 252 main card. And again, me and Zach Harris will be back on the Fly Like an Eagle podcast sometime within the next 2 weeks. We can't really pick it out because of COVID, but we will be back there. But as always, UFC Talk is here to stay. And
I appreciate it.
Guys later. Yep, we'll see you guys later.